acknowledges it this time. Not sure what that was all about. Hope it's all working. Shout at me in chat if it is. I'm going to resume talking. So anyways, we're not worrying about format is what I've been trying to say between all these crashes. So we're just going to move on. Ignore all text that isn't move specific. So for the second move, I definitely want to have something that's very like direct and maybe a little more like aggressive versus defensive. Because we want to give them a way to fight stuff. Because this playbook does have points in Defy, right? Yeah. So they are about directly smacking shit. So that all being said, we could do something that's like when that has like some specific circumstances where it gives them power during that circumstance. So like a thing where like immediately after someone else suffers something, you like get a bonus to retaliate. In fact, I kind of like that idea of like a retaliation move. Because it's totally like, I think this is like an interesting way for the Guardian to be aggressive is like when shit starts breaking down is when they actually get to like go in and smash stuff. So maybe it's like, let me take a quick look at our good friend Blades in the Dark. So I feel like the Hound kind of has a move for this, right? Like I kind of want this to be like vengeful a little bit, which is just an XP trigger. But I want to play into this kind of idea of like when you are pursuing this. So rather than be like when you complete it, you get XP. What I want to say is like while you're trying to do this, you are like more effective. Like you get an extra die or something. Because the Hound seems to have, it's like Hound and Cutter seem to have the best inspirations for Guardian moves. And there's nothing in here that's jumping out at me. So yeah, let's just say like when you let's see. So when you like when you strike back against someone who has harmed one of your friends, gain potency. So you get greater effect when just like smashing someone after someone else takes harm. And so this is like, you know, we're the Guardian, we're protecting people, and we're like busy doing that. And then as soon as someone actually gets hurt, you're just like, Gah! And then you go and fucking smash things. And yeah, it's harm as in they've actually suffered harm. Blood Brothers from Bravos. Which one's Blood Brothers? When you fight alongside your cohorts in combat, they get +1 die for teamwork. See, this, I think, this idea of improving teamwork rolls in fights, I think should be a fusion thing. Because fusions are more about, like, leading. Although this character, what are their XP prompts here, right? We're teamwork or self-sacrifice. God, and then what did we do for the fusions? Fusion is understanding or coordination. So coordination is kind of teamwork as well. We have a little bit of redundancy as far as that goes, but whatever. Yeah, I feel like teamwork specific stuff is probably going to live in the fusion, and we do kind of have some of that stuff because we've got this one. But we don't have one that's like an extra die during teamwork. So I think we'll put that in here. I think it's totally good. And this is when you fight alongside your cohorts in combat, they get +1 die for teamwork rolls. We don't have cohorts exactly, right? We don't have like thugs or gangs of people or specialists or whatever. But we do have teamwork still, so let's just have it be that when you fight alongside your allies, take +1 die. And then it needs a second clause, presumably, because that's not quite enough to make a move, but I think it definitely works for the fusion. I want to add another clause to this. So far I actually like this idea of like you get potency for the like next thing you try to do after someone gets hurt. Right, did I word that as just the fusion gets +1 die? Right, it's they take +1 die. When you see, it's not fight alongside, it's when you perform teamwork with your allies. It's when you fight with teamwork. Your allies get +1 die. So this is like so this essentially is like when you're leading a group action. I should just say like when you lead a group action or participate in a group action. Yeah, we'll say when you lead a group action. To fight the darkness, your allies get +1 die. And then there's another thing to this. So that's really strong, right? Like if you're leading a group action and 3 people participate, that's 3 extra dice. It's very, very strong. I mean, I'm cool with it, but it's you know, it is very specific. You're not constantly doing teamwork in Blades. I find it's actually less often, although that'll push people to do it more, which, you know, honestly is fine, whatever. I mean, they all get to suffer consequences when things go wrong when they do team actions, so. It's like an inherently costly thing to do anyway, so I think associating a powerful ability with it should be okay. Because anytime people gaff, there's stress that gets farmed around, all that kind of stuff. So, what is our second clause that we want to give for this? So it's all about retaliation. Here we go. And if successful, if your action succeeds, I think we clear 1 stress. So as it stands now, if the Guardian ends up with both of these advances, they are like, they have like crazy sustain while fighting, right? Like they can like keep going and going and going, which I think is kind of cool, right? They're this like tireless protector kind of character. So they get to get more out of their Transcendence clock as long as they're fighting to protect people. And then, yeah, when other people get hurt, they can retaliate with great effect and recover some stress. So they're able to then keep pushing. But if they start acting directly, they're then not protecting people. There's like a whole thing going around. So, and then what else have we got here for them, right? They have special armor against consequences suffered in the defense of or instead of your allies. And you can spend it to give +1 die to someone else's action without needing to be there. So they're very like team support oriented, but in a like get in there kind of way. Reduce all penalties from harm by 1 level. So they're able to like take their knocks really effectively as well. And when you help someone recover from injury, you also recover. So they're good at healing. We get a fun little "is someone injured?" question. And then when you protect a teammate, take +1 die to your resistance roll. When you gather information to anticipate possible threats to the current situation, get +1 effect. So they're all about protecting people, which is great. So I think this is a sensical skill set for them to have. We might have to change this out for something else down the line if we reckon this is too powerful. But I mean, they still only have a 6 clock. And then, you know, how often will the fiction actually permit you to be making this kind of action? And if you're doing this at the expense of doing other things that might actually be useful, right, then, like, how valuable is the move, really? Still need to wrap this one up in terms of adding an extra clause to it. And so here, this has to be like a little thing. So maybe this is where we tap into like gather info. If there's something. Yeah, maybe you always get to ask this question. Or like every time a team action starts, you can ask this question. It doesn't really make sense to have that be the case because everyone's going to help you anyways. I'll come back to this. I really like this idea of having increased scale, because this is like potentially very powerful mechanically because your effect level changing accordingly can mean that you're just getting great effect a lot. But also like the fictional positioning aspect of it I find really fun as well. The idea that I can just be like a huge person is fucking cool. So I'm stoked about this move. I really like it. And then this one just needs a little extra bit of flavor. I mean, it might make sense to add a move that's about like incorporating people into your like mega fusion thing. Right, says Master? Yeah, like when you transcend it in a small space and you're like too big for it. It's also funny. You know, good times. I like that there's like a clear fictional outcome of this move. And yeah, the general default mode for the fusion is a pair, and then that they might add people in is like something I don't know how to design around, unfortunately. So let's review what is going on with the stranger, because I feel like I haven't really looked at this playbook in a long time, so I want to just get a sense of it. Also, I have a bunch of open questions here. Like, there's a bunch of things that aren't finished. There are many of the hazard tape square brackets around a bunch of these moves. So, a transforming move where they start with this and they can like ditch it or it changes or whatever. So you cannot take the social link and help recovery downtime actions. Eventually you can ditch this move somehow. And presumably there is a payout. Presumably there is an upshot to this. So this still needs to get figured out. And then during downtime you get two ticks to distribute amongst any long-term project clocks or investigations. We'll just call this project clocks because we changed kind of how investigation works. Whenever you complete a project clock or investigation, mark experience. So we just want to get rid of this aspect. Whenever you complete a project, mark experience. The upshot to this should totally be let's see. So when you investigate, take +1 die. Plus more. And there should be one other little payback, because not being able to social link and help recover is it sucks. So then they have a move that lets them, you can social link, help recover, and de-stress by leaving. So this no longer exists. So you can social link and help recovery by leaving anonymous gifts for your friends, and then there's some special situational bonus for doing that. Oh, yeah, someone is making a good point about, like... So, when you lead a group action to fight the darkness, your allies get +1 die. Harm suffered as a consequence of this action is reduced by 1. Something like this. Now this is getting really strong. But I mean, like this aspect feels pretty ridiculous, honestly. But fuck it, we'll try it out. We'll throw it in there. Could be good. So to come back to this. So there's more move here. Presumably this gives us some kind of benefit. I'm not sure what it would be. And then we have special armor against all emotional trauma. You may spend your special armor to blank. I'm not sure what that's going to look like. You can empathize with non-human things as if they were people. If you use this to gather information, you can ask questions from any playbook currently in use by the crew. This is like one of my favorite design elements in the game. Full stop. I think it's really, really neat. I kind of want to have more... Because this playbook is really all about, like, interrogating the fiction a lot. And so I want to make all of these moves tie into that more and more. When you do a If you watch them receive the gift, any one question from their gather info list. So we get to like interrogate the characters. I think you can social link and help recovery by leaving anonymous gifts for your friends. Gain +1 die. When you do, you gain +1 die. If you watch them receive the gift, you can ask them any one question from their gather info list. Oh, Gifts from the Wildwood. That's a neat suggestion. Yeah, I like that. And yeah, here's the thing. Maybe they can't get rid of this move. Maybe they just never... Maybe they just never can social link with people in normal ways. I think that might be true. I think this just might be a thing. This is a core move, so they cannot take the social link action. And they cannot help people recover. So they can only investigate and work on projects. When they investigate, they take +1 die. Maybe when they investigate, they have more effect or something too. I don't know. I just like it staying this way forever. Because then we don't feel like... I'm seeing now how the previous move where we're like supposed to get rid of it, it's actually really bullshit of me, and I should not have let myself get away with trying to design it like that, because we're not trying to like fix this person. This person is just different. Yeah, like... Yeah, no, they shouldn't get rid of this move. So, and yeah, then I like this. This means a lot more in that way, right? Because this is a way that lets them do it. And the thing is, other people can take it as well, right? So they would take it just to get the +1 die, and to like interrogate them, ask the questions part. These parts still matter to the other playbooks, and the like the Enigma would probably want to take this as well, potentially, right? There are a bunch of ways. There are a bunch of playbooks that might want this move, or the Outsiders, so they can like anonymously leave gifts for their rivals to social link with them and stuff. I feel like there's motivations for people to want this move regardless. Yeah, I think they just keep this move forever. And so in that case, they're better at investigating, and then there needs to be a second advantage. So we're kind of getting sidetracked into redesigning this playbook, but I don't want to go into transcendent moves without first figuring out what the playbook's identity is, right? Yeah, C. McDonald, they don't all have a starting move that's like kind of prescribed, but a bunch of them do. So other examples of playbooks that have this, there's the Unlikely Hero, who has this move, this like paired set where initially they have only mortal, which is where they can't transcend, they have all these restrictions, they get some other bonuses, and then it turns into a move where they're more badass if they embrace their heroic destiny. And let's make it always be optional. I think that's something I'm noticing in my wording. But we say you can lose this move and gain Hero's Destiny. And then other characters that have something like this, there is the Outsider's rival move. So you choose another player character. They are your rival. You always have exactly one rival. Put their name here. And then you have a bunch of moves that interact with your rival. And if you take one of these moves that interacts with rival as a mechanic, then you get to, essentially you get this. But the Outsider is all about this. This is a core thing. And their darkness prompt also pivots around it. It's like integral to the playbook. So they have one. The Fusion essentially has one, right? About how they're a combination of people. There's some weirdness with how their action dots work, where some of their action dots are shared and then others are divided between their two selves. And the two selves each have separate stat lines in downtime, and like you split your actions among them. And then the Time Traveler has a thing similar to the rival move from the Outsider, where you have traveled through time to change another player character's fate. Put their name here. What dark fate are you here to prevent? And then there are some things that tie into this. Particularly, again, their darkness prompt ties into it heavily. Essentially, once they go into darkness, they decide that it was all for naught, and what they really need to do is push events towards this dark fate that they've been trying to prevent. Once they get pulled out of their darkness, they either change who their fated person is, so like the reason that they're here, or like who they're here for, or they can change the dark fate that they're trying to prevent, because part of the move involves the person you're trying to save embracing their fate, right? Show them that they're not afraid of their fate, and you both choose to face it together. Which, you know, is the most Madoka thing that I could possibly have written. It's right here. I'm very stoked about it. So a bunch of the playbooks have it. The Strangers is one of the more limiting ones, like the Unlike the Heroes is the worst. This one is very narrowing still. There's certain downtime actions you can never take unless you unlock this move. But I don't know. I think it's neat, and I think there's a reasonable pair off. Yeah, I mean, I know it says you take a Transcendent Advance, right? Immediately mark one Transcendent ability on your playbook, but like you're gonna choose Disciple, and then you're gonna fill in the space below with what ability you actually took, right? Like, come on, guys. You're gonna write down on your sheet whatever Transcendent ability you had. And then yeah, you can take Disciple more than once, just like Veteran. So it's gonna have the little triad of pips as seen. Yeah, I need to change these pips to be white. That's something that's missing. Boom. There we go. What do those look like in Blades? Yeah, they're white. Okay, cool. So, to come back to the Stranger, I would love to know what they're going to be spending their special armor to. I think they should have a move about pushing themselves in order to get some fucking crazy shit to happen. I want to give them some, like, control of non-human or, like, non-person objects move, where they can, like, push themselves. Yeah, I do, Zoe Claire. It's cool. Good catch. So I like the idea of giving them some, like, what's that comic called? It's called, like, what is it? Ex Machina, the guy who, like, runs for mayor of a city, and he has the power to, like, control machines, and he just uses it to make guns not work in his city. I would love to give this playbook a move like that, where they can, like, push themselves to control stuff, things that don't have agency. right? Because they can already empathize with non-human things as if they were people. And so I like the idea of them being able to like call on them for support and stuff. Um, yeah, so kind of like a compel thing, but with like the kind of core stuff I'm imagining is like machines or like electricity, computers, plants, stuff like that. So like they get compel, pretty much. So that being said, let's look at compel, which is in the Whisper player, right? So you can attune to the ghost field to force a spirit nearby to appear and obey a command you give it. Um, so it's kind of like this. It's kind of like this one. I want to frame it more like Tempest, um, where they're gonna push themselves to do it. So it's not going to be as cheap and easy as Attune, just Attune to do it. Um, Maybe it should be. I mean, they're already doing magic. Like everyone always does magic all the time is the thing. And yeah, the idea is that it can be like animals, plants, robots, machines, data, electricity, like gasoline, elemental fire, earth, water, air, whatever. Like we need to keep it really broad because our settings are not so constricted as with Blades, which like and this is not a dig at Blades because I love Blades' like core setting aspect, and I see how important it is to the design the more and more I look at these moves, right? Like the world and the mechanics of that we have access to are integral to one another. So it's a little bit we don't get to have as much fun specificity in my game because there isn't that core stuff. You may push yourself to attune to the way and twist it, causing psychic harm to anyone in the area who cannot withstand your assault. You may spend 1 stress for each additional feature. It damages instead of stuns. The area includes a few targets instead of 1, and you are not included in the effect. Yeah, something kind of like that, C. McDonald. Like, which I see that move from Scum and Villainy as being kind of like a further extrapolation of stuff like Tempest, right? I like the simplicity of Tempest a lot. Like it's quite narrow still, in terms of like the kind of stuff it does and the simplicity of the mechanics. And I like that it's just like there are like 2 things, right? You can do this or you can do this, and it's basically like directly aggressive and like cool supporty thing, right? Of summoning a storm, this is more like cover, a chance to escape, making yourself all spoopy and epic, stuff like that, and then using lightning as a weapon is about murdering shit. So yeah, we could do like a list. I feel like the fiction almost already is gonna establish this, right? Because we have here this one, which is very broad, right, about how we can empathize with non-human things as if they were people. So I feel like this move being in the game already establishes a certain set of expectations for this playbook. And so what we're really doing here is taking this move to like an extreme kind of magical manifestation. Oh, Matt, I want to hear John's secret that he told you. Although it's not a secret because he told you. So I'm just going to write the move as I'm kind of imagining it now, and then we can kind of workshop it. Oh, I see. Mads is not referring to game design secrets. It's just just having things laid out nicely on a grid. Yeah. I don't have InDesign, so I got to do it on Photoshop, and Photoshop is not as good at giving you grids to work with. But you can see it like if we go to his playbook here, right? Like everything is very nicely ordered, and there are nice like linear elements, you know, like this line here is nice, and then we've got like everything's kind of in like boxes, and just like breaking down boxes into sub boxes and sub boxes. Yeah, it's great. It makes everything everything has its place. It's nothing like bleeds into each other, which I am copying more heavily here. I mean, I haven't quite nailed getting everything, found ways to like pack everything as nicely as I would like to. I got to move some stuff around still, but I feel like this half, the right-hand half of the character sheet, is pretty solidly gridded out. I have room to maneuver with this section. I'm going to add some more kind of boxes around things because I want to make this a little bit more visually compelling, this area. Because I like the little details on this sheet, like this thing, bonus die. You can do these things. There's like a nice little visual element to catch your eye and then be like, here are some mechanics. And I want to do that with some other stuff, give some little mechanical prompts. So I'm going to try to work to incorporate a bunch of those as well. But it's a lot cleaner. Like this version already is a lot cleaner than this version, where I'm using more lines, but I'm actually less on a grid. You know, which I find really funny. Okay, so to come back to this, I want to write this move. I'm going to finally get around to doing it. So you may push yourself to... How did I word this in the time traveler book? So you may push yourself to do one of the following. Boom, boom. Okay, cool. So for now, we'll just do it the same way. So you may push yourself to do one of the following. How would I narrowly scope this, right? It's like call on so we can call on non-human things to like hinder your enemies. And yeah, what ultimately do we want to be able to do with this? I like the idea of being able to like make these things fuck up your enemies, basically. Are they things or things with a capital T? So yeah, we can call on non-human things to hinder your enemies, or you can use it to... See, I kind of miss the more, for this thing, I kind of miss the more like general Tempest version a little bit. Like I want to define this I want to phrase this one differently. So you may push yourself to bring inanimate. See, it's not quite inanimate. Inanimate objects or plants / animals. See, because now I'm going to say bring inanimate objects to life. So we can do directly attack our enemies. That doesn't seem as fun as being like hinder or distract. things. Or what's another cool thing that they can do? And then, yeah, it needs to be something about like protecting people. Or maybe like creating an escape, like giving us a way to run away. Um, but I guess that's like hinder or distract already kind of does that. It's kind of like hinder is kind of like a catch-all for like do everything short of harming my enemies to just like fuck up their plan. Um, and like what is another thing that we would want to get out of having this move? Like, yeah, I think maybe get them to like change the environment, or yeah, let's do change the environment to suit your needs. So this feels very useful, right? It's a total like setup move, right? Of either we debuff our opponents or give ourselves a cool setup. Um, Ultimately, this is about getting fictional positioning. Um, and so, right, this just provides us with circumstantial stuff in the same way that this time traveler move, right? You can push yourself to do one of the following: suddenly appear next to your enemy ready to strike, or pull someone out of the flow of time, removing them from harm's way. All this does is change fictional positioning. It's just like where I am or where they are, and that's it. It doesn't give you a direct like action consequence immediately, but it sets you up to then do a thing. Um, Similar to like how Devil's Footsteps or some of the other moves in Blades would do that. I mean, even Tempest, right, is like cool. You can push yourself to use a stroke of lightning as a weapon, but you're still probably making an attune roll, right? It doesn't get rid of the roll. You just when you push yourself can do this other thing, and it lets you make moves in a different way. So yeah. The part that is not jiving with me is the whole like just having it be inanimate objects. Like you may push yourself to compel non-human things around you to do one of the following. Could be a way that we could put it, right? Yeah, so let's just make it. You may push yourself to compel non-human things to do one of the following, right? So that'd be those animals, plants, etc. All those random crap I listed. So there's one for us, and now a second one. And I'm sure this isn't perfect, but it's solid enough for playtest, certainly. Right, like if we want to include plants and animals but exclude aliens, that's what it is. So non-human things. Um, I guess really it's like non-person things, but whatever. I'm sure I can just send this out into the world as it is. I'll get feedback being like, "What the fuck does this mean?" And then I'll adjust accordingly. Or maybe everyone will just be like, "Yeah, non-human things, like animals and plants and computer software or whatever." Just, all that stuff. Maybe they'll just get it like I do. Non-sentient is also a good way to do it. Non-human persons is the anthropological term usually used to describe animals, etc. Yeah, which like uh see, I don't know if I want to give them anything to do with this outside of being transcended, because I see y'all suggesting this idea of like bake it into this previous move, right? But I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm actually into that. It seems a little bit much because it pushes this character into a. Well, I mean, one, it gives them magic when they're not transcended, which I don't like. And then yeah, it just like nah, nah. I I do not agree, even though I fully see the merits of your statements. Um, we're just gonna leave it for now. This move up top needs a little bit more, but I'm not sure what it's going to be. Let's just try to give them another transcendent move that makes sense. And so as it stands right now, I'm viewing this playbook as being kind of a existing in kind of like a support role kind of space. And so I want to give them a lot of like play from the back kind of moves. This is still really like sweeping and big, but it doesn't ultimately. It's also indirect, right? Which I think so. Like I feel like this one is totally in line with my vision for what this playbook is about. Right, like we have some gather info questions that relate to this, right? About like where can I gain an edge? What might happen if I do X? What is the purpose of X? Like we can kind of, and what do I see here despite an effort to conceal it? A lot of these actually give us ways of like having useful practical combat info stuff. And then we're being rewarded for knowledge or subtlety. So like how can we, because the other thing I want to emphasize with transcendence, right, is like some element of power within the character, right? So and I want these to be active things, as much as possible. Like this is why special armor doesn't live in this category; it lives over here, because it's too defensive. I want this to be very like proactive. I want this to be stuff that you can do, without anyone else doing something, to you or at you or whatever. So something that reflects their like cerebral calculating nature, for this playbook, I think is totally rad. I don't know what that would look like, because like we'll still be able to like gather info as normal. I don't necessarily feel like this character needs another move that interacts with gather info because we've already got quite a few. Right, because we've got this one about emphasizing with non-human things and being able to ask questions from any playbook. And then we have a thing where when we're linking with people, we ask them questions from their own playbook. We already have some stuff in Time Traveler about getting greater effect when gathering info, right? Because we have Oracle and Dark Omen, which do that, right? You can see the mirror items leading from past future. Gain potency when you gather information. If it relates to your fated person, you also get +1 die, right? So we already have someone who's about like knowing things in a gather info way, or at least being able to gather info in a more like profound way. So knowledge and subtlety. And I feel like this one is actually a fairly subtle maneuver in a certain sense, you know, like it's kind of indirect, roundabout. Yeah, I also like the idea of connecting this character to the investigation tier. Um, like something where like they get a bonus per current investigation tier while transcended, um, because they just like have internalized all of this like understanding about the thing that they're fighting. Um, so it could just be like gain a die of defy per current investigation tier while transcended, but then that gets weird because like I don't want them to be rolling like a million dice. Seems bad. That's a little too simple headed of me. I could definitely see adding some mundane moves that relate to investigating once we expand these out more. Um, yeah, this one's tricky because it's a bit of an odd playbook. I feel like I want to keep looking at. Kind of want to look at the spider and the leech for something that might be cool. Hmm. Oh, well, I figured out the special armor for this one. So you may spend your special armor to go completely unnoticed. By the darkness. Right? Because you're just like. You give off no magical girl vibes, essentially, if you don't want to. I like this. So this is like, we can be sneaky. Right? And also, like, this is a playbook that has points in conceal. See, and here's the thing, Games from Wildwood. Aiding from the shadows is the Enigma's job. So we're kind of... It's like we're farming out the, like, spider leech slide stuff, or, like, infiltrator stuff to a couple different playbooks. Based on, like, a different set of criteria, because our specializations, or, like, our boxes, right, are for different things. But I think, like, I agree with the general spirit of what everyone's talking about. Yeah. Yeah, Ghost Contract is super cool, but I don't see how I would put it in this game. Like, it's totally the one of the coolest moves in Blades, and I think it's been very underrepresented in my games. But I totally want to take Ghost Contract the next time I play Blades. I've started a game recently where I'm playing a Hound, and I think I took Ghost Hunter, and I just want to be like a super attuney Hound, so I'll probably take Ghost Contract soon. And we're smugglers, so it would make sense to be like, if we just got double crossed in our first mission, so I think it might prompt the character to want to delve into that. So making the deal with the darkness, I could give to the Enigma, no problem, right? Or to the Outsider. Either of those would be good. Because they're both the kind of like edgelord playbooks. I kind of want to look into Leech, maybe Lurk even, for this next one. Leech doesn't really have a lot of like do shit right now skills. They're very like preparation oriented, but maybe the Lurk has something fun for us to pull. I mean, we could give them something like Ghost Veil's got to go to the Enigma, right? This is an obvious shoe-in for like a push yourself type mechanic. But then I just like don't quite know what to give this playbook. And I know that the reason I'm struggling to nail this one and like find something I feel good about is mostly that I don't have a good sense of the like identity of this playbook. Doop doop doop. Do any of these feel right? Does the vampire and ghost? Yeah, okay. So here's the other thing we can look at. They're the ghost and vampire and hull moves, which are all super fun. And like obviously we're not going to just make them be a ghost or anything, but yeah, some way of like avoiding consequence or I actually really want to look at the hull moves because I feel like some of these are going to be right. Like we've already kind of given this playbook something like interface, which is this is like very much in line. God, being a hull is fucking rad. But yeah, I like the idea of something like weirdly sinister and underhanded that this character can do. And then with vampire, blah blah blah, sense beyond human limits. Arcane Sight could be really neat. It's like you have like increased effect while gathering info when transcended, just like about anything. I don't know how relevant this necessarily is, you know? Hmm. 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 Yeah, like I feel like right now we don't have a lot of sneaky moves for a playbook that has conceal, right? So like Oblivious now kind of does that because we have this go completely unnoticed, and we can blast emotional trauma. That's cool. Um, the one of the sneakier moves we have is this one about leaving secret presents for our friends and watching them. Um, and then we have these like preparation oriented moves. Like this one is very investigative. Um, this thing here, uh, like I don't see how I would roll conceal while transcended, right? Like we need to give them a way to do that, um, or a way for that kind of stuff to be relevant. So yeah, maybe we give them a move that's about like observing and then like striking as a follow up. Yeah, I kind of like this notion. So like a move about observing striking. Right, so in a similar way to for how we had for the Guardian, when you strike back against someone who has harmed one of your friends, gain potency, and if your action succeeds, recover one stress. So what we could do for the Stranger is have a thing about how like when you follow up on your gather info, um, gain a bonus, and then some other thing based on how it works, right? Like, and yeah, to everyone posting links to like here, move some other games stuff. It's actually really really helpful. Um, I don't always look at them and go like, yes, that's exactly it. But no, I totally want to look at what other people have designed, and I haven't kept up on every single other game in the like Blades sphere. So yeah, like this, it's not quite the full on like edge lord playbook. This is the like detachment playbook. And so yeah, I like the idea of this being a really like analytical thing and about being able to like do something at a critical moment based on like knowledge that you gather. Um, And so, yeah, I want to... Okay, here we go. So what we can do is something about being hidden. So let's just make it so that this character is better at avoiding notice, and then can like fucking wreck things that aren't paying attention to her. Which I feel like the vampire had something kind of like that, right? We had, right, take 2 stress to cause living things to avert their gaze and fail to observe you for a few moments. And you are invisible by spirits and may not be harmed by them. Right? Like, I want something kind of in this spirit, in this vibe of, like, things just don't notice you. Specifically, the darkness doesn't notice you because it doesn't perceive you as being part of its, like, prey category. So, I think, yeah, we should just do, like... We already have special armor to go completely unnoticed by the darkness. So we could double down on this theme by having it be like when you're transcendent, you get extra effect on moves to conceal yourself. And then also tie that into getting a bonus to attacking from hiding. And I think the bonus to attack from hiding is the main thing here. So actually, here's what we should do. Reward them for not being seen. So, yeah, here we go. So, when you gather information while unseen, gain potency. Or well, you get +1 effect. When you strike from ambush, right, the hound has, where is it? I thought it was the hound that has it. Is it the lurk that has it? When you hide in preparation or in a prepared position or use camouflage, you get +1 die to rolls to avoid detection. And when you gather info to locate a target. Okay, so they have that one. I think it's the lurk that has the move to strike. Yeah. When you attack from hiding or spring a trap, you get +1 die. What I want to be careful of is avoiding stepping on the Enigma's toes, which, like, the Enigma is going to have the, like, you know, the big reveal where they, like, strike. So when you gather information while unseen, you get +1 effect. And then, like, we need something here. Let's design the Enigma's one and come back, because there's more to this move. Certainly. But I'm not sure exactly what it'll be. Let's go to the Enigma and do theirs, because there's, like, super obvious ones for the Enigma, right? Like, I just want to call it the big reveal. You know what? You know what it is? Let's just make them... It doesn't need to be like a super aggressive thing. Because what we could do is we could change this. We could change this spending special armor thing. Or not even. It can just double down on this theme. But the idea here is, like, give them a move about staying hidden. So for this one, we could add like when you transcend, you immediately, like you can choose to immediately disappear or something. That feels more like an Enigma move. That is totally an Enigma move. The moment you transcend, you may choose to immediately disappear. When you strike at the darkness, yeah, when you surprise your foes, really. Right, so the Enigma gets to just like disappear and then reappear, and like when they surprise their enemies, they gain potency on any follow-up action. So this can be the like, I mean, Elf's been playing one in the playtest, and it's super fun. It's super cool because she's just like edge lording everywhere all the time. It's super neat. Um, and so yeah, I like this one because it supports their identity of wanting to be like, so if they're ever caught out, right, they can transcend to like be gone and away and not need to roll for it essentially, because you only get to activate it once, and it's like so important to their idiom that they be, in the rafters or whatever. um, this and then that it's not necessarily like if they disappear and go to the rafters and then monologue from this like invisible perch in the rafters, that gains potency just as much as if they fucking like shuriken a dude from hiding ninja style. They gain potency. So I like the idea of it empowering whatever they choose to do next. um and like that's a move right there, and that just, it feels so easy to design moves for the Enigma because I have like a very clear sense of what the Enigma is about. And then we had already talked about how like Ghost Veil is a thing that we probably need to give them. Um, so you may shift partially into the Ghost Veil, becoming shadowy and substantial for a few moments. Take 2 stress while you shift. Maybe what they want actually is Devil's Footsteps, though. I think Devil's Footsteps is probably an outsider thing. Um, in fact, yeah. So this is Outsider gets Devil's Footsteps. Enigma might get Ghost Veil, or something like it. Like I like this one of like that they get to fly, um, like more kind of floaty, spooky shit like that. So maybe actually we go um, to like ghost moves and stuff here because I feel like actually these probably have some stuff that we want. Um, Not quite. Right, we have this whole idea of like feats of extreme strength or speed from this one. Um, and then the vampire has what? It's terrible power, right? Superhuman strength or speed. I'm sorry, Sith Master. Which one are you referring to? Dissipate. Oh, I see. I don't want to like necessarily triple down on this theme of hiding. Like we already have this thing where we immediately disappear when we transcend. So this is like once per mission, we just so maybe we don't need to do a move about pushing ourselves. So these guys, by the way, they get to address challenges with mystery or ostentatious action is what we want to be pushing them to do. Right, and our stats are conceal and embody. So we're all about like looking cool, basically. It's like the battle babe of the... So in this case, I want something that's about like... See, this one kind of sets us up to like monologue and whatnot. The other move I want is maybe one that's a little bit more direct and about like doing cool shit. I think they should have a move about like avoiding danger, right? Like, or doing like cool. Maybe these guys actually need Devil's Footsteps. I feel like it's more important. Yeah, I think this is just... They should just have Devil's Footsteps basically straight up. I think that is ideal. And then the outsider can get some other shit that's more edgy. So, so to perform a superhuman feat of athletics, or maneuver to confuse your enemies so they mistakenly attack each other. The second one will have to change, but the first one we can keep, essentially, of perform a feat of athletics that is superhuman. Right? We just go one step further because we're superhero fiction, essentially. So, you may push yourself to perform one of the following. Perform a superhuman feat of athletics, or... Right, what is our other thing that we want to be able to push ourselves to do? Right, because the superhuman feat of athletics lets us look awesome. What's another thing that we can do to look awesome? Because that's what this is really about, right? This is about the embody angle of things. What is some cool stuff? I mean, the superhuman feat of athletics is already just super rad. Shrugging off blows and stuff like that would fit more in a like special armor situation. Yeah. Perform a lengthy monologue without anyone interrupting you. Yeah, okay. No, totally. You can push yourself to do that. Yeah, I think it's just too perfect. It's really funny, but there it is. I think we got to give them that. So things that they can do. Here we have it. So when you secretly set up another character's action, roll +1 die, and you mark experience. If they succeed, mark experience. I think it needs to be a little bit conditional. If they succeed, mark experience. You have special armor against any consequence that would reveal your secrets. You can spend your special armor to mysteriously appear in a situation at the perfect moment to help a friend. No one can unmask you without your permission. Gain +1 die when you roll conceal while not transcended. You You can roll to recover without getting help from another character. What's your cover story for your injuries? 2 times per mission, you can help a teammate without spending stress. Describe how you prepared for this situation. So they get some spidery moves. So this is their moveset thus far, and then they have the big reveal. So the moment you transcend, you may choose to immediately disappear. When you surprise your enemies, you gain potency on any follow-up action. And then you may push yourself to perform one of the following. Here we go. We don't need to perform twice. A superhuman feat of athletics, or a lengthy monologue without anyone interrupting you. Reroll the cruise engage roll. I don't think the monologues are meant to be that long. I think we're going to change this from a lengthy one. We're just going to say deliver a monologue without being interrupted. Or without anyone interrupting you. Yeah. Let's just change this to do one of the following. Perform a superhuman feat of athletics. Deliver a monologue without anyone interrupting you. Great. I feel reasonably good about those. So we've got Outsider, we've got second move for the Stranger, and then we're actually done. We're actually done at that point. So, rival, core stuff. They have a rival. That is the most important part for the Outsider. They have a rival. You have special armor against any consequence of your rival's actions, and you can spend your special armor to act before your rival does. So they have like special case reflexes that they can get by spending special armor. You gain/grant an extra die when participating in or leading group actions with your rival, and each suffer 1 additional stress if either of you fail. When you gather information, you can always ask, where is my rival and what are they doing, for free. If your rival is about to die or fall to darkness, you can choose to be there and resist those consequences. And then when you make a desperate roll, gain an extra die. If you're at -1, you are at -1 die to resist the consequences of desperate actions. Some core stuff right there. And then what did we talk about maybe giving them from this? So we've already doled out Devil's Footsteps and effectively Ghost Veil to the Enigma. Right, they're our most like stealthy person. The rival, or the Outsider rather, is more in this zone, I think. I think they are going to have the not to be trifled with equivalent. Like, the rival sounds like Batman and Joker, but as magical girls. Yeah, and if they were fighting on the same side. And then our stuff that we have is Perceive and Express as the Outsider. And we get XP if we address a challenge with independent action or aggression. So yeah, I think we have to give the Outsider the like not to be trifled with equivalent. So here we can push ourselves to perform a feat of physical force that verges on. So perform a superhuman feat of physical force, or engage a small gang on equal footing in close combat is not really relevant in this game. And like Quantum Dot, this is absolutely the playbook for Kyoko, right? Is the girl who's always eating in Madoka. She's totally the Outsider, right? She's like super edgy, and it like changes who her rival is changes throughout the show, which is part of how this playbook works. But yeah, she's all about like that brash, aggressive kind of approach and like directly challenging the other like player characters, right? The other magical girls. Um, so yeah, that's who we want to emulate. Um, I definitely want to have a thing that's about like a move about doing shit alone while transcended. Potentially. Or just, I want to have a move about doing shit alone. Whether or not it's a transcendent move is another question, right? Like, it could live in this former henchwoman space. But are not to be trifled with equivalent, right? Because again, I think these are like easy moves to dole out in this section. And like eventually we're going to have more than just the two, obviously, so it won't feel quite so narrow as it is now, where like most of the playbooks have some kind of like push yourself move. But what we want to give to this one, the bit I do like, is like a feat of physical force. A superhuman feat of physical force, right? So you just like fucking smash some stuff. And then what is our second one that we do? What is another like edgy thing? Because the whole like scale thing doesn't apply. So like taking on a gang on your own, although it's like perfect for this playbook, doesn't actually make any sense. And then so we have to look at like other ways to go in on this. What are some other things that we envision ourselves doing? Oh, yeah, I like this, Sith Master. Destroy an obstacle between you and your rival. Destroy an obstacle between you and your rival. I think having it just be between you and your rival is great because, like, the classic rival relationship that I'm imagining is between the outsider and the unlikely hero. And so the unlikely hero, like, bumbling into shit and then you being like, that idiot. And you have to just, like, smash through everything to where they are because where they are will also always be where all the bad shit is that you want to get to anyways. And so it's like your rival is really just the reason you give a fuck about then doing the next thing that you do, right? So to get to them, it's not so that you can then like murder your rival. It's so that you can then like destroy whatever they're like failing at fighting against and stuff like that. So, and so we already have the Hound move about ignoring harm living in the Guardian, where we reduce all penalties from harm by 1 level. Level 4 harm is still fatal. So I don't know if it makes sense to give the outsider something about like enduring harm. I imagine them just being like pure aggression. But then we need a move about doing shit alone somewhere in here. I kind of feel like the move about doing shit alone shouldn't be a transcendent move. I'm just gonna like add move X, a move about doing things alone. Like some kind of mechanical incentive to do things alone, other than the fact that we get XP for it. No quantum dot. Doing shit alone is not the same as being a small gang, I don't think. Who is the Sturbs that everyone's saying hi to? I don't know who Sturbs is. What is our second move for this character? Just like pure murderalizing. Oh, Sterling. I see. I see. I kind of want to just give them something like Savage. Where it's like they're like scary, or they give the enemy pause by fighting it. Um, right, we've already got a thing about our rival dying somewhere in here. Yeah, if our rival is about to die or fall to darkness, we can choose to be there and resist those consequences. So we already have something around that. Back here in our regular moves. Just something about epic weaponing. Yeah, like where they just fuck shit up. I want that move. But I think yeah, I think it needs to be a move about them being scary. Yeah, so like when you inflict harm, or like, well, I guess not, because inflicting harm, I'm thinking Apocalypse World, so like, so when you successfully attack the darkness, thing happens. We are going to cause, yes, the darkness pees its pants. Yeah, I don't want this to just be like essentially your effect level is better when fighting or something, right? Like I want this to be more conditional. Um, Something about like a follow up to your violence. Um, right, because with Savage, we have when you unleash physical violence, it's especially frightening, and when you command a frightened target, take +1 die, right? Like, I like this idea of giving you a different kind of leverage after you've done violence. Um, right, and we already have the. Yeah, we're already reckless. Because I just, like, I want this playbook to just be super fucking all in all the time. And just be the most gung ho. So maybe this is what I actually want to say. Really, I think it's more fun to just encourage this playbook to just be super fucking over the top and ridiculous about being aggressive. So like when you attack the darkness, I can't say the phrase attack the darkness. It's not allowed. Can't do that. I think what this actually does is like your crazy reckless shit sets up. So here we go. So when you succeed at a desperate roll when fighting the darkness, teammates get like +1 die to their next actions or something like that. Like I kind of want them to accidentally be being a good teammate, right? Yeah, I kind of like Sithmaster's idea of like they can't back down, right? Yeah, like once you engage a foe, they cannot back down for any reason. They cannot back down until either they are defeated or you are. Yeah, you always attack first, hardest, and loudest in combat. You draw the bulk of your foe's attentions. Yeah, once you attack a foe, you engage a foe, neither of you may back down until either they are defeated or you are. But then there's like an obvious need for a second clause here. I think this is like well transcended that this is a thing. Because otherwise you're never going to be fighting. Like you shouldn't be fighting while not transcended. You'll get fucking destroyed. It's dumb. It's bad. Um, and so here it's like your allies have limited effect to helping you. Yeah, so while you are engaged with your foe, your allies have -1 effect to help you. But other agents of darkness will not interfere. So yeah, it's like you just like pick a thing, and that thing you like duel it, and no one else can fuck with you. And your team is like not able to help you effectively. How relevant is this? I wonder. I mean, this would be like super amazing in Blades. I would love to have this move in Blades. This move would be rad. I don't know how much it matters in this Magical Girl anime game that I'm trying to write. So your allies have reduced effect to help you, but other agents of darkness will not interfere. This certainly feels very like in idiom for the outsider. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We can leave it in. It's a fun move. I just don't know if it's like super in idiom for this playbook and then really out of place in the game overall is how I feel about it. Right, so the Guardian can still be trying to help you, but she'll do so with limited effect. Which actually, like, imagining the fiction around that, I think it's really fun because you're like, you, the outsider, are like, I challenge you, other minion of darkness, and like you start like dueling this, like the giant worm from our playtest. Say like someone would just like, no, it's mine. And they like go in and start fighting it. And then the Guardian is like trying to save you, and you keep like pushing them out of the way. You're like, no, don't get in my way. I'm fighting. I'm doing this. Yeah, right. Like it's super hilarious if people do try to help you while you're doing this. Um, and so the expectation is that they go and like do other shit. Yeah, I was thinking about that Games from the Wildwood of like, how can I work the rival thing into this? Because I feel like they would. And I think what it is that your rival can help you. Your rival can help you with great effect, but becomes the subject. It's like they have to replace you in this duel, basically. I should say increase, not great. Increased effect, but becomes the. And then, like, how do I specify this? So, but takes your place, but must take your place. It's like almost there. Need some editing. So, once you engage a foe, neither of you may back down until one of you is defeated. Defeated. While you are engaged with your foe, your allies have reduced effect to help you, but other agents of darkness will not interfere. Your rival can help you. I want to change this last bit, but there is a way to make this work. Well, because like unless they're both each other's rivals and they both have this, like they wouldn't be able to just switch back and forth as you're saying to Sith Master. Only one of them actually has the escape clause because only one of them has a rival. But yeah, I think there's is room for that to be okay because like it's just like a classic element of this kind of fiction. But yeah, like if you don't have a rival, then presumably you can't actually exit it. So they just like have to take your place and follow through on it. I think is probably the most. I just want it to feel more consequential, right? Um. So like I like the idea like if they stick their nose in it, they have to finish what you started. Um. So rival may take your place at any time. But must finish what you started. You rival, your rival, may take your place at any time but must finish what you started. I think this is a fun interaction. So you can totally, like, your rival can save your ass and then get saddled with this thing if they want to. Or they can just let you get fucking wrecked. Okay, I'm happy with this. Let's go back to the Stranger because I know that Games from the Wildwood had a bunch of suggestions for what we could do here. Also, let me just like do that so I don't have a line striking out my whole thing. Because I would love to have like a second clause to this to move to here. That gives us like something to do after we have gathered information while unseen. Oh yeah, like letting them gather because I guess yeah, if you gather information while transcended, that costs you one of your 6 actions. Okay, so maybe we can actually get a third move going for this playbook because we can have. What was my wording from the Guardian? It was actions made to blah blah blah. Okay, we're just gonna copy and paste this into the Strangers thing. So it's actions made to gather information. Do not advance your transcendence clock. When you gather information while unseen, you get +1 effect. Analyst. This is our version of analyst. So yeah, games from the Wildwood. I would love to see your connecting of dots between this and Monsterheart. So just to review, right now we have this idea of pushing ourselves to compel non-human things to do one of the following: hinder or distract your enemies, or change the environment to suit your needs. Which is like a cool setup-y move, and that generally I kind of want to reword this. To just like pass as a perfectly normal human. It's not quite what I want either, because this has different connotations too, right? To a sneaky thing. A sneaky thing. A sneaky thing. There we go. Right, because yeah, like it's like the darkness just like doesn't pay attention to you, is what I want this move to be about. Yeah, some kind of aggressive fiction framing move, something that pulls together the vampire's inescapable and the worm's where I want you. Yeah, that they have somehow set this up, coordinated this thing to happen. You may spend your special armor to be overlooked. To be completely overlooked. There we go. Thank you, chat. I don't know who said the word overlooked, but it's ideal. Yeah, thanks, Lord Sandrin. Yeah, some kind of move about like trapping people because you're so because you are analytical after all. So we will go from having this one be one where I didn't think we would even get 2 moves to now having a 3rd move. Yeah, choose some aspect of where the fight happens and refuse to let the darkness retreat. And that refusal can either be through foreplanning or through another aspect of the nature manipulation stuff. Right, so we already have a little bit about like setting the terms of how we're fighting it, right? Because we can change the environment to suit our needs, or like hinder our enemies. So these provide a little bit of that. Like this does a lot of fiction framing stuff for us. And so yeah, I would like one of these moves to be kind of very directly effectual, even if it is still kind of from the back or something, but I'm just not sure. Oh, like scene framing. Well, so here's where we're going to hit a little bit of an ideological issue, Games from Wildwood, which is that, like, I do not personally, so, like, warning, this is a rant that I'm about to go on. I do not like the use of, I do not like the term scene framing in, like, role-playing games. It it is never clearly defined to me what a scene is. When it begins, maybe is clear, but when it ends, certainly isn't. And like what is required for it to end, and what like it's such an open-ended thing that goes so poorly defined and is so much about people's kind of assumptions and this kind of collective assumption about it. But I have not ever heard anyone describe it to me in a way that like fundamentally like satisfies me. Like I can't look at my game and be like, this is where a scene happens, in a way that I would find satisfying. My kind of like measurable units in this game, as far as I'm concerned, is we have like clear phases, right? We have the downtime phase, which has a clear beginning and end that's defined by the mechanics, right? Like downtime is, or like the play procedure, right? We have, first off, we roll for obligation, we negotiate all of that, we describe some stuff that happens. Then each player can take a prescribed number of downtime actions. We resolve those actions. Um, there is then opportunity to kind of gamble for more actions, but risk the darkness clock advancing, all still in downtime. Downtime ends when we choose to go on a mission. We choose which mission we go on. We go on it. We do some stuff as laid out by the fictional goals of our mission. Um, and then, like the next smaller unit within the mission is like action rolls. Um, and like maybe the clocks that we set up kind of define some like fictional space, but there's nothing that operates at the level of like scenes, um, as such. It's language that I have completely avoided using in my game. It doesn't exist anywhere. I don't think you'll see the word scene uh, anywhere in here. Um, and so like, and yeah, like I hate this whole notion of like scene framing, um, because it, one is usually assigned to a single person, which takes everything out of the kind of conversational context that I like to see games be in. And like it is so open ended as to be functionally meaningless, in my opinion. And yeah, like much of what I am saying is like part of, like relates to the conversation between, that Sith Master is referencing, between Vincent Baker and John Harper, where they're just like saying everything that I have said, but probably more eloquently and with more wisdom behind it. But I very much like feel that. Um, and so I want to move away from referring to that kind of stuff. Um, and I feel like anytime the notion of scene framing comes in, it is essentially uh, with the purpose of like, and now someone arbitrarily decides what is happening, is generally where I feel like scene framing going. So yeah, like Games from Abroad would by all means clarify what your like goal is, but I like to move away from that language of like scenes and scene framing, because I feel like even if you're using them in good faith or whatever, right, like that a lot of people use them without thinking, and that their meaning has become like sapped away from them, like they don't really mean anything anymore to me, um, by merit of like the general large scale like role playing game community just like fucking them up. Yeah. So that's how I feel about that. That is a rant. This is not like directed at Games from the Wildwood or anything. Please, I hope that I'm not coming off that way, because it's nothing to do with you and everything to do with this like pet peeve I have about the way that the conversation around games has gone in its history. So, and so I need, and if we're going to do something like what you're suggesting, I need to find a way to fit it into the way that I am structuring my game. And something that can have like a defined place within how we are framing the fiction, which is around the structure of like missions, roles, clocks. Like these are the tools we have to establish context for stuff. And this was actually a big point of discussion in the previous design thing, which is why I'm like, this is all kind of coming out, right? Is that like when I was talking about transcendence and trying to design around like having a duration for it, there was this big question of like, well, what the fuck is a duration in this kind of like, we're not Torchbearer, right, where we're keeping very precise track of time, or anything like that. So we need to develop structures that support any notion of time or of like things having duration. To use an example of this, in the most recent episode of Burning Wheel from this week, my character Agatha cursed, I like hexed this fucking douchebag to give him a trait that was respectful of women. And in Burning Wheel, they do use like until end of scene. And as soon as I saw this, I was just like, fuck everything. Because here's what happens. I give this guy a hex so that until end of scene, he must be respectful of women. Adam then plays him leaving the scene immediately. And then like stuff happens, ? Somewhere else, maybe? Does the scene end when we cut, right? Like that. Now my mechanics that are very expensive, like in order to pull that off, I spent my only fate point. I had to use sorcery, which is incredibly dangerous, and then I get this thing that lasts for a scene, and like, or even if it is till end of session, with any of that shit, like who the fuck cares if it lasts until end of session if the guy then does nothing for the remainder of the session, right? Like why is the session the bookend? Because the session has nothing to do with what's going on in the game. And although within Burning Wheel there's a bunch of stuff that happens around session to justify it, right? Like the reward cycle of the game is in part session based. I think my gripe is pretty clear about like the idea of scenes or sessions or a lot of these like units of time that are informed by like things exterior to the fiction, right? Like when we play and how long we play for, or where we like what we're paying attention to. Like all of these things interact in this way that can make those things useless distinctions or make mechanics that are based on them like either be incredibly strong or totally flop. It's like a really inconsistent like yardstick to be using to, you know, like if we say that something lasts a scene and we give it a cost accordingly, what if my playgroup decides that a scene is like our whole session is playing one scene? What if a scene and a session become the same length? You know, like there's nothing really to stop that from happening within this definition of scene and all that stuff. So anyways, rant concluding, Games from Wildwood has delivered a very well thought out and well written like deepening of their explanation, and I'm just going to go back to that because that is the actual topic at hand. So when the team directly confronts the darkness, so like specific mission types, or the darkness comes at them by way of its clock, the Transcendent Stranger gets to determine some number of factors based on rolls or whatever, right? Like, again, these are the under construction parts of this particular rule here. About that, they get to determine some number of factors about that confrontation, where it happens, when it happens, what they're fighting over. Maybe this even applies when the darkness comes hunting. Or just fuck that and give the stranger the power to control the darkness's ability to leave/maneuver for position. Like they have fictional position to forbid departure or location shifting of the fight. I definitely like the idea of giving the stranger something that factors into engagement, because right now none of the playbooks have anything that has to do with engagement. So like, I'm just going to move 6. An interaction with engagement. And then, right, because here is something that I think is really important to point out, right, is that our system has something for defining like a lot of what was just talked about, right, of like the location, when it happens, what they're fighting over, all this kind of stuff. These are in large part informed, I think, by the kind of engagement mechanics because the idea is that we in any kind of Blades derived game, you elide as much of the action as you possibly can to get right to the intense cool part. Cool part in scare quotes, because what that is will change. You know, your mileage will vary immensely based on what your table is interested in the game being about and what the tone of your game is. It's really clearly defined in Blades because tone and setting and all that stuff is like super tight in the core Blades game. In this game, a little bit more open-ended. So we have the engagement role factoring a lot of that stuff. So I don't necessarily want to be too much at odds with it. I think definitely it makes sense for this playbook to get involved in that mechanic in a way that the others wouldn't. And so that is something that we can do in terms of like pushing framing in a certain direction and giving this playbook control over that. Further, whoops, where am I typing? I'm typing in some other window. Yeah. Further bonuses for investigating. So like maybe if you have investigated, you get a bonus to your engagement roll or something, some way, or like further connecting to investigating, I think is what I want to say here. But yeah, I like the idea of this character having powers of this type. I also feel like this move does a lot to give us like terms of engagement stuff. Yeah, there's like a crew move in Blades that's about rolling multiple. You roll the engagement twice and keep the one you like. Stuff like that. We might do like there's the spider move that's about like when you gather info in preparation for a score, you get bonuses to the engagement roll, which I kind of want to do it more in that spirit. It's like reflecting a choice that you make as a player with your downtime by then having it roll into a further bonus when you actually go on a mission. That kind of move can live in a character playbook. The crew book can get the more broad stuff. And then, yeah, Slippery is the one for entanglement. Yeah, everyone's talking it all out. But there is totally one for engagement. Or at least there was at some point, because I remember playing it. It might have been removed in the latest version, for all I know. And so I need to change this to unnoticed. Is that even a word, and am I spelling it correctly? It is a word. Excellent. I don't spend enough time writing anymore, and I always have these moments of doubt. We don't have a stranger in the playtest right now, because that would all be like really helpful, right? Like I had such an easier time being like Guardian, Time Traveler, Enigma, boom, 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 because I've seen them in play. This playbook, I just still like I've spent so much time on this screen, right? Being like, what the fuck with this playbook? Because I just don't quite. It's like it hasn't crystallized in my mind as like what this is supposed to really be about. So I think I'm gonna leave it for now. But there is this other thing that I want to have here that I just haven't come up with yet. But it's a start, at least, for all this stuff, right? So to review, let's just go through and review. And I see Hyena Spots in chat, so Sean, you're going to want to know what's available to you. First off, here's the new playbook. Look, it's fancy. I'm going to keep working on this off camera, because all of the, like, move this object 1 pixel stuff is pretty tedious. I also feel like somewhere along the way, yeah, look at it. 4 dots on the time traveler sheet, 5 dots. I don't know why this is different. So there's like a little bit of inconsistency that I need to clean up. I think I only want to have 4 dots. In fact, I gotta fix this right now. This is bad. This is very bad. The easiest way for me to do this would be to move this until these dots perfectly overlap. Boom. There we go. So your stat max is 2 until you transcend, and then you access these bubbles. So, Time Traveler gets Clock Stopper, which is basically just reflexes from blades. If ever there's a question of who acts first, it's you. And then Time Magic. You can push yourself to do one of the following. Suddenly appear next to your enemy ready to strike, or pull someone out of the flow of time, removing them from harm's way. Simple. And the Time Traveler is also now the like template playbook, so it gets all the fancy updates. All the others look like hot trash. So, for the Guardian, actions made to directly protect another do not advance your Transcendence clock. And when you strike back against someone who has harmed one of your friends, gain potency. If your action succeeds, you recover 1 stress. Pretty straightforward. You're about protecting people. When that fails, you're about smashing your enemies in vengeance. I like that there's a little bit of hot-headedness in the Guardian. Fusion Transcendence moves. Giant Woman. When you transcend, your scale increases and your effect level changes accordingly, where appropriate. Changes accordingly when size is a factor. And then move to, when you lead a group action to fight the darkness, your allies get +1 die. Harm suffered as a consequence of this action is reduced by 1 level. Seems maybe a little too, 1, a little too mechanistic, and 2 a little too strong. But, you know, we'll see. The Stranger. You may push yourself to compel non-human things to do one of the following. Hinder or distract your enemies, or change the environment to suit your needs. And then actions made to gather information do not advance your Transcendence clock. When you gather information while unnoticed, you get +1 effect. We also rewrote half of their fucking core moves. And I still haven't finished writing this, like, non-optional. Yeah. Outsider. You can push yourself to do one of the following. Perform a superhuman feat of physical force, or destroy an obstacle between you and your rival. Or, once you engage a foe, neither of you may back down until one of you is defeated. While you are engaged with your foe, your allies have reduced effect to help you, but other agents of darkness will not interfere. Your rival may take your place at any time, but must finish what you started. Lord Xandard, right now, the Fusion's way of separating the stats is that you use different colors or different symbols when filling in the stat pips. And that they essentially each, like, claim a given ability action that they get to have the dots in. So they divide all of the action pips except for empathy. Empathy they both share. And then, wait a minute. I have to just double check. Right now they have embody. Instead of this is I literally just thought I had given them embody, but I hadn't. This is funny. Okay, hold on. Or I thought I'd given them empathy, but I gave them embody. How embarrassing. Okay, so boop, empathize. And then I called it empathy in here, which is not what it is. It's empathize. Because it's an action. God, how embarrassing. So yeah, the two halves share empathize dots, and then you assign other dots to them, and each half gets one set, and the other half gets the other set. Anyways, so we did stranger, we did outsider. You get to like duel people. Um, and then we have the enigma. So the enigma gets the big reveal. The moment you transcend, you may choose to immediately disappear. And I just realized the other reason why that's incredibly important is because no one knows who the fuck you're supposed to be. So like if they're just walking along, and it's Darian and he's like, "Hey guys, what's up? I'm just hanging out with you while you go on a mission. It's cool." And then he's like, "Boom, I'm Tuxedo Mask." It's like, no, you can't do that. You have to disappear. You have to have cover story. Okay, so I accidentally did this correctly. So the big reveal. The moment you transcend, you may choose to immediately disappear. When you surprise your enemies, you gain potency on any follow-up action. And then you may push yourself to do one of the following: perform a superhuman feat of athletics, uh, or deliver a monologue without anyone interrupting you. And then the unlikely heroes' transcendence moves are they don't get one. Get fucked. So they choose abilities from the other playbooks once they unlock them, which to do that they have to actually get only mortal to turn into Hero's Destiny, which is like their whole kind of core thing. So they cannot have special armor, cannot transcend. They're better at doing like social link stuff, and they can kind of help manipulate a bunch of these mechanics in ways that are favorable to the team. But until they go Hero's Destiny, they do not get to transcend or do cool fighty stuff. And that is everything. And then Starlit Kingdom, we're still just keeping the two super basic transcendence abilities for now. All right. I think I've done enough rambling. I'm like starting to lose my voice. Yeah, Quantum Dot. The Enigma is Tuxedo Mask. First and foremost. I'm just glad I'm like catching a lot of this random crap that I'm noticing. So like this is the correct stat lines too. Everyone is very low dice pools. I want to push people to need to help each other more, need to push themselves or take bargains more to get dice, and to generally just have like less resources than Blade's characters would normally, because I want these innocent, hopeful young people to suffer horribly and fail and die. That's what I want. So kind of the shit I'm going to be doing is getting the new look for the playbook set up, when that includes the new mechanics that we've added, right, of Transcendence Clock, respacing things to make everything a little bit nicer. And then this is pretty much, like the Time Traveler one is pretty much there. It's pretty much ready to go. So, I mean, it keeps drifting back a little bit, but I think as part of the second and final episode of our playtest over on Distracted Elves channel, we're going to release the playtest package. So keep an eye out on my Twitter. It should happen this Monday. It's been delayed significantly, but I'm just trying to have it actually be a fucking functional thing. And it's taken longer than I anticipated because I've never designed a game before and I don't know what I'm getting myself into. So, if you do not already, I'm surprised that you're here, but follow me on Twitter at Commuting Crow, or follow me here on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/actualfactual. These VODs, the VODs for this are also all up on YouTube, which you can find by way of my Twitter. I have a Patreon if you want to help keep a roof over my head and power in my computer and internets and whatnot. You can support my Patreon, again, linked in my Twitter profile. And if you want to playtest this game, I'm going to be providing a means for that very soon. And basically, I just would really appreciate everyone that tries this game out and sends me feedback. It'd be real good. So, everyone, take care. Thank you all for coming by and talking and contributing to the conversation and helping me fumble my way through this process. And if you are interested in this and are able to tune in between 5 and 9 p.m. Pacific on Monday nights, I definitely encourage you to check out the second part of our playtest that we've been doing, or to check out the VODs, which are on Distracted Elf's channel, which is just like YouTube/Distracted Elf, because her branding is very consistent. And it's in there somewhere. Yeah, if you want to like see the game in action, definitely check it out. Particularly this second part that's going to be happening like 3 days from now, because I'll actually have the rules for Transcendence this time around and be able to play that out, which I'm really looking forward to actually getting into. And I also have all the like end of mission procedure and everything figured out between when we first played and the second session. So yeah, I'll see you all next time. Even though I'm going to release the playtest package this coming week, I'm still going to continue doing these. They'll probably be more about incorporating like playtest feedback and learning. But there will come a point where these stop because I'll run out of stuff to do on this game. Or at least stuff that's worth doing in this setting. But I'm going to try to keep streaming on Fridays. I might just do like take a break from design stuff and just do video games for a little bit, because I have a couple games that I've been meaning to play, and that I would like to share with all y'all on stream. So you can come check that out. And then at some future point, yeah, I have a thought in the back of my mind for another game, but I'm not sure what exactly it's going to be about. I just have a name for it and a vague concept, which is I want to make a game called Hell's Electorate that's about like demon bureaucracies in hell. So that's kind of going to be my next thing that I work on in the distant future, but there's going to be a whole process with getting Girl by Moonlight finished. But what I might do with this next thing is like put it through these paces while I'm doing the kind of next phases of Girl by Moonlight, which don't make sense to stream. So yeah, demon bureaucracies, just trust me, it'll be cool. Don't worry about it. A political thriller of a very different type. But yeah, thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you all later.